Hey, it's Ray and Mike, and we got some great information for you.
Yeah, we just wanted to remind you about the fundraiser for the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, which is taking place on October 27th at the Renaissance Center in downtown Joliet.
You'll be able to get tickets at Cadillac Groove shows. If you see Mike or myself somewhere, we'll have tickets. You can get them at the museum. They're only $5.
Also at CadillacGroove.com, you will be able to purchase them online as well.
Very good.
They're going to cost you $5 a ticket. There's going to be a $10 cover charge to get in the day of the event. And for your $10, we will give you 2 more additional tickets as well as some Cadillac Groove swag. And the lucky grand prize winner will win the band Cadillac Groove.
And winner must be present to win. So remember that.
And Cadillac Groove will play for whatever event it is that you would like for us to play for. You know, conditions do apply.
That's true.
We do have
so
to
get
say
out
that.
there and get your tickets right away.
Coming to you from the studios at the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, it's the Rock and Roll Chicago Podcast.
Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike on a lovely July evening.
Yes, and lovely July evening.
Yes.
Very warm. No rain.
Yeah. No rain, no nothing. The sun's shining.
I was in the pool earlier.
Yeah, were you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a pool?
I do.
I've never been invited to his pool.
No, well.
No, ever.
You guys got to work on that.
That's right,
Yeah.
Maybe I'll think about it.
I'll wear my assless chaps if you do.
Oh, Jesus. No. No. You can actually sit in my giant swan, my blow up swan that floats around.
Oh, okay.
It's no, I don't have a swan.
No.
Swan. So what else is up?
Not much on this end over here.
No?
I'm just living the dream,
I hear you.
enjoying life. How about you?
Living the dream, as always. Always looking forward to another podcast.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Do we have one?
We have one, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
We've got Vince here. He's with the artist formerly known as Vince Band.
Hello.
The artist formerly known as Vince Band.
Yes.
So there was the band called Vince.
It's based on. Yeah. I'm still formally Vince.
Formerly Vince.
So I'm still Vince.
Perfect. So how you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Good. You came from Chicago?
Yep.
Yeah, you've been a Chicago native, born and raised?
Grew up in the suburbs mostly, and then back in the city after that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So what kind of stuff you do?
It fluctuates. The band is kind of glam punk, and then on the side, I do a kind of folky Americana thing also. So
Okay.
keeps me busy.
All right.
Places for all my music.
So take us on the journey. Tell us where it all began, where it all started for you.
That's a good question. As the artist formerly knows Vince, it started in the mid 90s.
Mhm.
Some good friends of mine, it was my brother and one of my best friends, started a band called Bitter Boy. And I was kind of hanging back and recording demos for them and doing their live sound and booking them and being their manager and a million other things that I didn't really know how to do, but kind of knew how to do to be involved because they had the band set. And then one of their first shows, they're like, finally booked a club show and they're like, you should open for us solo, because I was doing a lot of solo shows at the time.
Right.
And I'm like, okay. But I just don't want to be my name.
Okay.
So, and it was right around that time that Prince was going by formerly.
I knew there was something.
There was a catch there.
Right,
Yeah.
same period. He was talking, they were all calling him formerly, and my name is Vince and it rhymes. So we called it that, put it on a poster, and then that show never happened. The club closed down before they can have this show.
Right.
And then the next thing they had booked, I wasn't on. And I don't know if I have a poster somewhere, and I don't know, the poster might be formerly, but somewhere I got clever and changed it to formally, so that I would still be Vince.
Ah, gotcha.
And it was a joke, but not a joke, because I love Prince. Yet it was funny, and I like to have a sense of humor. And then it stuck.
Yeah, why not?
I made a tape and started passing it around to friends to try and to get gigs and to try and get people interested in the rock part of it. Cause that one side was all my folky stuff and the other side was my rock stuff that I recorded all myself.
Right.
But I wanted to get a band. So it was a good way to have something to say to people. You can listen to this and I can either get a gig solo or I can give to people to try and build a band. And the name just kind of stuck.
Right.
And my friends all picked up on it and I started playing some gigs around solo and here I am 30 years
Well, that's
later.
pretty cool.
So there isn't a band anymore.
There is.
There
yeah.
is. There is
I
a
just
band.
go back and forth. Like I'm always with the band, yet I'm always writing music here and there. And sometimes we all get busy because everyone's in other bands too.
Of course.
And works and we're adults and
Right.
it gets busy. So like if we have a couple months where I can't seem to hook up with everybody, if I can make some calls and someone's like, yeah, we got room to put you on alone, I'll go play alone and play my other stuff. And then,
And when the band does get together, it is officially called the band.
The artist formerly known
or
as
the
Vince
artist
Band.
formerly known as the Vince Band.
or the shortening of TAFKAVince Band with the initials to try and, which is still confusing. Everything I do is confusing.
Right.
But it's all based around me, but the band is a band. It's like five of us and everyone does their part. It's not like I'm not Prince recording everything. I need them because they're all better at what they do than me. I just bring the songs and lead it and they come in and make it sound amazing.
There's very few people that are like Prince or
Yes.
were like
Oh, yeah.
Prince.
Yes.
He literally could do it all.
Yes.
He is definitely one of maybe my favorite artists. I mean,
Me
he
too.
was just
Me too.
spectacular.
Me too.
Could do everything.
Yeah.
He even did country music. Not that he made it popular or anything like that, but
Right.
he did, and he could.
Right.
it was just he was incredible.
He could do anything.
And one of the best shows I ever saw him was a Super Bowl program In the Rain.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was phenomenal. I mean, he didn't run away. He just stayed right in it.
You can't script that.
Nope.
Rain starts coming down. Nope, I'm staying right here.
Yep.
Tell the lighting guy to put some purple LEDs. I mean, how perfect is that?
That
You
was
couldn't script that.
Awesome.
Everything worked out for him. I actually saw him 3 times in concert, and the last time I saw him, I can't remember the year it was. I wasn't too far removed from high school, but it was one of the first performances where he would send his band backstage and he'd just play acoustic guitar for about 30 minutes.
Oh, that's cool. I never got to see that.
Oh, that was just amazing. I mean, to this day, I actually cover Little Red Corvette the way he played it acoustic solo. And then in the bands that I was in, I said, look, this is the way Prince does this as an acoustic solo performance. Let's see if we can translate this with the full band. Mm-hmm. So it's a full band playing Little Red Corvette, but it doesn't quite sound
right.
the way, but awesome. Interesting. Yeah. No, I love the name. I love the name of the band and everything that you have going on. When I first heard it, I was thinking back to, the Will and Grace show where they had that character and he had his own one-man show called Just Jack.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Just Jack.
So when did you get when did you first get the music buzz? How old were you and how long have you been doing this?
As a kid, my family loved music. I listened to records all the time. We got a piano. I took piano lessons as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Then I decided I wanted to play baseball because I was 10 years old.
Right.
And gave up piano. And then in high school, I messed around on guitar because my neighbor played guitar. He was one of my best friends. He started showing me things and I started taking piano lessons again. Then I went off to college and took a piano class and took a classical guitar class and brought a guitar with me to college. So I started getting a little more and then picking up lessons here and there. And that's when it really, it was always there, but it really hit in college.
Right.
Like I was hanging out with people. I was in theater school. But a bunch of the guys played guitar, so we'd hang out and jam, and they'd teach me things. And then I was doing a play that I put together with somebody, adapted from a book, and it was going to have songs. So I had to figure out what songs I wanted to put into it. Mm. And so I was learning songs, and then that's when I wrote my first song, because there was like a section, I had a song I wanted to do, and it was just too hard for my skills at the time. And so I wrote a song, and I don't know if we ever ended up using it in the play, but it was like, oh, that's how you write a song. I just kind of figured it out. I don't know, there's no how to do it, but I was like, strum this, sing this. Okay, it's a song. And I started writing songs, and that's when it kind of twisted into, I think I want to do this as much as I want to do theater.
Right.
So I started playing some gigs down in college. Like guitar teacher used to occasionally on a Sunday night have a little show, and he'd let some students come up and play a couple songs. And that kind of put me on stage as a musician as opposed to being an actor. And so then once I got out of college, I was back in Chicago acting. But again, I was going out and playing open stage.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with some, when my friends' bands were just hanging and kind of being bands, but not really. But they'd be like, let's get together on Jam Friday night and have some drinks. Okay. And I'd go play with them to kind of get some experience, and then kept writing songs, and then started trying to get bands together.
Yeah. So where was college?
College was Illinois State.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Bloomington.
Both my kids are there.
My brother has a recording studio in Bloomington now. He ended up moving there to take over a friend of ours' studio, the guy I knew from there that he ended up meeting. And we were down there recording with the band that I was doing the demos for and sound for and all that. And then he's like, when do you guys want to come run my studio? I don't have time to run it all the time. And I'm like, I am not moving back here.
Yeah, right,
Chicago. I want to be there. My brother's like, I could do that. So my brother moved down there, and he has a recording studio. I do a lot of my records with the band there.
Right.
And some of my solo stuff I've done with him, and the rest of my solo stuff I tend to just do alone at home.
Right.
I see you got a new album out.
Yes. Last year we put out an album called A Problematic Opera that we recorded in Bloomington at my brother's place. Over a couple of years, and then over a couple of years of pandemic of not finishing it because of the circumstance we were all in.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, we got back in to mix it with him. And then after that, I spent a little time trying to see if someone would put it out for me and figuring out what we wanted to call it and do the art. I had ideas, but it kind of had to come together. And then we last year finally got it pressed and out to the world, and we've been out doing shows around that.
Nice.
You write all the songs for that?
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, what was the impetus for the album? What?
It was. We were at a time we had done a single in 2016, maybe 17. We had gone to New York and recorded a single there, like a 7-inch, 2 songs on it, and a third song that we put online. And we hit 19, and I'm like, I got a bunch of songs. I'm like, we should get in a studio. So in 2 or 3 of them, we had started doing live. So we already had that kind of in place, pretty much how we want to play them, or at least how we're going to do them live, let alone, you change it up in the studio a little bit. And I had a bunch of other songs, but I had 3 other ones that I thought hung together with those, where I just kind of got this vision. I'm like, these 6 songs, and we'll do it on 10-inch vinyl. So it's 3 songs aside, because I like the format of 10-inch, where it's it's not a single. To me, it's a record. It's it's cohesive.
Right.
And I wanted these 6 together and knew what order I wanted them in and what I wanted to do with it. So it's an album, but people call it an EP because it's not as long. But,
Right.
Yeah.
But I knew what I wanted, and I wanted to do, I like 10-inch records. They're fun.
Yeah.
And they're odd. So I'm like, let's do these 6. I'm like, let's learn these other 3 and get in there and do it. So we spent a couple of years doing it, and a couple of years means time. It doesn't mean in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
In the studio, it's a week and a half worth of time over a couple of years. Again, we drove to Bloomington for a weekend. A year later, we drove to Bloomington again for a weekend.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Later that year, me and Lauren, who's the other singer in the band, drove down to finish vocals. And like I said, then 3 months later, when we were supposed to mix, the world shut down.
Right.
So we didn't actually get it mixed. And then my brother mixed it, and then we said, let's all meet and tweak it together, and did that, and finally got it together.
Yeah. An amazing thing happened over COVID, because I have quite a few friends that are session players. Ever since COVID, they have not gone back into a studio once. I'm talking about guys that are doing something every single week for some artist somewhere.
And just doing it at home.
Yep. Send them an email. Here's the track. Put your track down there. Email it back to us. I mean, studios are just completely virtual nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of it
everything's digital.
That's a said. My brother has a studio, but he also started doing that because he's a professional drummer also.
Right.
And so when that shut down, he already was kind of doing that, but he set himself up with a business and a website. And not only does he run his studio, but he also records drums for people all over the country who find him and say, I got this song. It's like, it's this much. They're like, okay. He's like, and you get a completely professional quality studio because he owns a studio, and he's a great drummer. So he does that. I'm making a record right now at my house. I started I started in COVID, probably.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone did. I made an EP right at the beginning of COVID at home, put that out. And then I had a bunch of other songs and wrote a bunch more. So I started recording. And at first it was like, oh, okay, I'll do some kind of folky and where I can just play guitar and maybe little keyboards on it and little extras. And then I started expanding. I was just like, we got to a point where I was out and about seeing people and I started asking friends to play on it.
Right.
And 9 out of 10 friends that are playing on it have recorded their tracks at home.
Oh yeah. Right.
You know, my brother's on one track, but most other people, and buddy of mine just sent me something today, and he's got a home studio, and we've done a couple songs there in the past with him, a couple singles with him, and I did a solo single with him, and he's real helpful to me just because good friend, and he knows a lot, and he's close, so we can go hang out and talk about things. But yeah, almost everyone on the record has done it in their home studio, other than a drummer friend of mine who's now in the band. But I asked him we asked him to be in the band. We went out to my friend Tony's studio in the suburbs of Chicago, and not my brother, but my friend. He's the only one who hasn't recorded his own track.
Okay. Wow.
You know,
Yeah.
it was like me and him with my buddy at his home studio.
Right.
Everyone else, I'm just like, send me something. I'm like, can you do this? Like, yeah, I can record at home. I'm like, this is what, I want you to play guitar. I want you to play bass. I want you to play keyboards.
Yeah.
Send it to me. We'll talk about it. If it needs to be revised, you do it. So I'm in the process of making a record like that right now while still doing band stuff and hoping to start teaching new songs to the band so we can get in the studio later this year.
Yeah.
So it's always kind of ping pong back and forth, and it's a little unfocused but focused.
But you're busy though, so that's good. Yeah.
So everything you do is all original.
For the most part. I mean, we do a couple covers live. I do, like Lauren, who sings in the band with me. She and I years ago had a duet. Then we stopped for a few years. She got busy and had some things going on, even though we were still doing the band, but we kind of stopped going out, just the two of us. A couple years ago, we kind of refreshed that again. And that is like half covers, just because like years ago, she met some woman who owns a bar in Galena.
Okay.
And she's like, she invited us to come out and play. I'm like, okay, cool. And then like 3 weeks before, she's like, oh, she just called me. We got to do 3 sets. I'm like, we don't have 3 sets of music. I'm like, we don't have that many songs.
We're going to play Proud Mary 12 times.
Yeah. And so we ended up learning 20 covers to make sure we can cover 3 sets mixing with our own songs. And so we do a lot. Just she and I, when we play shows, we end up playing a lot of things where they're like, we come in and play a couple sets. So we mix it up between our songs and covers. Mm-hmm. But the band really, other than a record we did in 2007, we did a New York Dolls cover on it. That's the only cover we've ever recorded.
A New York Dolls cover. Wow. Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say we do a New York Dolls cover before. Wow. Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a tribute band.
It would be.
Yeah. Wow. We've toyed with it.
Yeah.
And then we did one other cover. We did a Tom Petty song for a Tom Petty tribute record. But other than that, everything we record is live, and the bulk of our show is my songs.
Right. So you made the transition when you were in college. You were a theater major.
Yeah.
At ISU. And then you just kind of made the whole transition over into music. Are you more of a musician than theater nowadays?
Yeah, at this point, like by the mid 90s, when I was developing this name and trying to put a band together, the theater company I was with was fading. And we eventually called it a day because there's no money in it, and we were broke, and all the things that always happen with arts. And at that point, I was playing a lot of music. Like I was playing solo, I was recording stuff at home. We had a band at the theater. I had been part of a musical, and I wasn't in it initially. And then they started doing shows that were not the theater piece music. It was the singer-songwriters stuff. And I was a guest on that. At some point, he's like, would you just be the bass player? With the bass player left town, and you've already played bass on a couple songs. And so I became a bass player at that point because I'm a guitar player, but he's like, you play bass on a couple songs. You want to do this all the time with us? I'm like, yes.
It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Well, especially when you're getting paid to do it.
Yeah, right.
So,
sure.
Did that for a few years. And as the theater company faded, we did that for a little bit, and that faded away. And at that point, I just went all music.
Yeah. Right. Well, I have an idea as to what I think you're going to sound like, but no, because there's a young man by the name of Justin Watt. Justin, if you're listening, shout out, who plays in my band on occasion. And, he's very heavily involved in theater, media arts, and the whole bit. In fact, he just, they shut down his major at the University of Nebraska, and he's now he's going to be starting ISU.
Oh, wow.
This coming fall. So, and he plays in my band, on occasion, and he's got a very distinct sound when he writes a song in the whole, because he's got this kind of theater influence in everything that he does. So
yeah.
I have an idea.
It comes out. And that's why the band is a glam rock band. I mean, I grew up with that stuff in the 70s.
Right.
Like, I'm just old. I missed it as being able to go see the early 70s glam rock.
Right.
But I have a distinct memory. Like I said, I came to music because my parents like music a lot, and they have wide variety of tastes.
Right.
And somewhere there's a box of 45s at my parents' house that I need to find, that I used to play on my little record player. And the Beatles were in there that I always remember. I Want to Hold Your Hand and Sweet Ballroom Blitz.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know where that came into my parents' collection. Again, they have a very taste, but I didn't know where that one showed up. But there's a 45 of that buried at my parents' house that I remember as a kid. And I think it was on the radio a little bit at the time.
Sure.
You know, because it was like 72, 73.
Like that, right,
so
right.
I was like 7 years old, maybe. But I always remember that song. So I've always, and David Bowie being on the radio always hit me. So once I got into playing in bands, I always wanted it to have some presentation about it. And again, I went to theater school. So there's a thing there where you want to perform.
That's
and
for sure an element.
Dress up and put on a show. So when I really kind of got going with under this name, I'm like, when I put this together, it's going to be glam rock, but in the 70s vein, not the 80s LA vein. It's the New York and the English, flashy, theatrical.
Right.
Well, I think it's time to hear him.
I think it's time. So let him get his stuff together, and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Rock and Roll Chicago Podcast.
I'm Christy from Crime Cave Podcast. I've had a huge interest in true crime since my days of watching marathons of Snapped back in the mid-90s. I needed an outlet to talk about the cases that have haunted me for a very long time. With each episode under 20 minutes, I shine a light on some of the most bizarre cases in the last 50 years. Join me in the Crime Cave.
Hi, I'm Rick Anthony. I'd like to thank my radio brothers, Ray the Roadie and Hollywood Mike, for allowing me to tell you about my podcast, the Someone You Should Know podcast. We spotlight musicians, authors, and interesting people, and we like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. The podcast is heard twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays, and you can check it out on your favorite streaming platforms and on the web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. That's the Someone You Should Know podcast with me, Rick Anthony. Making a difference, one artist at a time.
And now, for the first time this evening, I'm not even going to attempt it. There's too many words. Here's Vince.
Let me tell you a story. Help remember that day. She walked into his life. Should have ran away. You've heard this all before, but fools always rush in. You think you're different, but you lose before you win. Flipping through magazine pages, looking to find some truth. You'll never know how easy you had it when it was all handed to you. Sometimes your situation seems so clear. pages, looking to find some truth. You'll never know how easy you had it when it was all handed to you. When it was all handed to you. When it was all handed to you.
All right.
I'm hearing a lot of David Bowie in there.
David Bowie and shades of Elvis Costello.
Yeah, exactly.
Two of my favorites.
I got the Elvis Costello.
Yeah, I got that too. Yeah,
before I got the Bowie. Yeah. See, so we nailed it, right? We nailed it. We got
You're
it.
on it. You're on it.
Man, see?
we advanced to the next round.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done this enough where I think we can start to pick out the influences.
That's right.
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that. Let me guess. I don't think you wrote that recently.
Well, it's on the last record. That was a single from A Problematic Opera. So, and again, we started that one we started recording in like 2017, 2018.
Okay.
So I wrote it around then.
Okay.
It's a few years old, but
because I was listening to flipping through magazine pages, and do they even sell magazines anymore?
yeah, I mean, but then again, that is a dated thing, but that just shows that I'm old.
But I'm right there with you.
I'm an old man who still reads magazines.
So do I. I'm a
right
newspaper guy. I got to hold that paper in my hand.
I prefer to hold stuff, So there's certain references I'm finding over the years now. There's things I bring into songs that I'm sure are not going to be brought in by someone under 30, or under 40 even,
right.
Because I'm of a certain age and I remember certain things that some people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
But you
what?
You can always re-record it and remix it and, turn in the pages on my iPad.
Yeah.
I like to stay old. I'm good with the
Oh
old.
man. Yeah. There's
work.
a ton of songs out there, like putting a dime in the phone,
Yeah.
it's stuff like that. I mean, it's really dated, but
No, but it's fun. Like I have a song like from a solo record I did a few years ago where it's an acoustic record. And one of the lines is about payphone call, collect call payphone calls. Gosh. Like it's about a girl running away and calling her father that way.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things I've written, and the line is really good, but I'm sure younger people listen to it and go, what's he talking about? Collect call?
Collect
Yeah, what's a payphone? Where have you seen a payphone?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, what is that? Because it says collect call payphone advice.
But
And I'm like,
if you do see a payphone and pick it up, though, they will still have dial tones.
Oh, I'm sure they will. I mean,
once in a while you see them. I don't know where.
I cannot remember. I can't remember seeing one.
I saw one at Disney World when I was there last year, and I was like, wow, still a payphone.
They still have them at old gas stations, like gas stations that have been there for years and years and years, because it's actually more expensive for them to, they used to have them like right on the curb or over by the air.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more expensive for them to rip that out than it is you just leave it there.
Just leave it there. No, sometimes you just pull the phone off and leave the stand there.
Yeah.
But I remember traveling back in the day, and when you'd get to where you were at, you'd call back home and you'd call collect.
You call collect.
And they'd say, there's a call here. And they'd say, would you accept charges? They'd just say no. Yeah. So they knew you were safe.
No, I used to do that in college. Again, I went to college in the 80s. There was no cell phones.
No.
I was in a dorm where you had to call out and use a phone card to make long distance phone calls
AT&T phone
from Bloomington,
card.
normally call Chicago. So I'd either go to a payphone or have to have that kind of number. And that's fading away. Like I work with children in high school, and like when I mention things like this, like, what are you talking about? Or they see it in a movie, we show them and they're like, what is that thing? I'm like, payphone.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we didn't even make long distance calls because it was way too expensive.
Oh yeah.
No way.
Yeah, my parents and I used to have a code where I would call and, will you accept the collect call? And they'd just say no and they'd hang up. That means, okay, I got to go pick him up. He's at the mall.
Well,
that we had a code. That's what we did. Yeah. That's what we did.
And then you'd call your friends, make plans, meet you at 7, and that was it. Yeah. You didn't hear from them again until 7 o'clock.
Yep,
right. Yeah.
Or there was that one time where it was, yes, we have a collect call from Iroquois County Jail. We accept the charges.
Yeah, that one you kind of got to think about.
Sorry, Mom, Dad. Yeah,
had to do it. And
that wasn't my fault. That wasn't my fault. It wasn't. So no, interesting. I enjoyed that song.
Yeah, me too.
I was listening to a lot of references that that old people like us recognized right away. So that's pretty good. What was the premise of that song there then?
Honestly, I don't know. Like songs come and go. I probably wrote down the line flipping through magazine pages one day because that's what I do. I just write a lot of lines down, things that come to my head. They're either type them into my phone or into my songbook that I write in my journal. And then when I have the urge to write something, I start finding lines to base it around. Or once in a while, it's like I sing something in my head and I'm like, oh, give me a guitar because I just sang this, this idea came to my mind. So somewhere along the lines, I probably wrote down flipping through magazine pages.
Yeah, right.
And then either grabbed a guitar that day or later when I was grabbing a guitar to write one day, I'm like, what? Like, oh, that was a pretty good line. What can I do with that?
Yeah.
And
So are you a lyrics first guy or melody? Or just what happens?
Kind of all at once.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I'm writing down a lot of words that maybe don't have a melody to start with, but they're like, I think it's a good line that I'm like, that would make a good chorus or that would start the song off and give me a direction of what the story is going to be. Mm-hmm. And then I write it, or I'm sitting with a guitar and I'm like, flipping around and I pick out a couple things. I'm like, comes to me and I'm like, what lines would go with that? And then I start throwing it all together at that point. So it's like, it's a little of both and every song's a little different. Like my approach is a little different, but it's in the end, it all kind of comes together at once.
Right.
Yeah.
But it starts either with a line of words or I have a basic melodic idea. And then I look for some words to go with that I maybe already have, or I think it sounds like whatever, for whatever reason, I play two chords and I'm like, this song's like a song about a car, whatever it may be pops into my head. And that's where I start running with it. And whether it stays there or goes off in another direction, and I lose the main idea and it becomes something else. I just run with it and then refine it from there.
Right. Right. And sometimes you don't have a story. It's literally just a few words that you have. And it happens. It becomes whatever it was. No, I enjoyed that because that song sounded to me like you were sitting across a table to a much younger person, basically saying, look, you don't know how good you have it, kid. That's kind of what that song was.
I'm sure some of that was there when I was thinking it, it's again, I kind of let it flow and let everyone interpret, but I'm sure there's some of that. Cause again, I know younger people. I work with younger people. Right. Sometimes I am saying you got it pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should take advantage of how easy you have and expand on that because it's going to be good for you if you just run with it.
Yeah. The simple fact that I had to do my research for, a term paper by flipping through magazines and all you have to do is go, hey, Siri.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to look in the encyclopedia. Go to the library. Oh my God.
Or microfiche.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. It's just, having two kids in college, watching them write papers, it just absolutely kills me. They're writing a 10-page paper on something that they don't know anything about. And all they do is, hey, Siri, tell me about this. And Siri comes back with, oh, here's all the info you need.
And now we have AI. You could probably go to the AI thing and say, write me a 10-page paper about.
That's a song idea right there.
Yeah. For today's stuff, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
So tell us a little bit about the band. I mean, is your basic two guitars, bass, and drums, or you got any oddball instruments in there, like a glockenspiel or something like that?
Nothing oddball other than Lauren, who's the other singer in the band. We are both the lead singers.
Okay.
I play guitar most of the songs, but I got a bunch I can let go of it and let the other three guys handle it.
Okay.
But Lauren and I are like co-lead singers.
Okay.
We sing together a lot. Or in certain songs, I need to write somewhere like this where we go back and forth. Like she does a line, I do a line. She does a line, I do a line. And I write a lot specifically for her and I.
Good. Okay.
Once she and I, we've been playing together for, I figured out, like 22 years now.
Wow.
Like we started singing together in 2002. And a few months later, I brought her into we were doing the acoustic thing. And then I brought her into the band because I'd lost a bass player. I had a female bass player who sang backup and it was awesome. And she was busy and went on her way. And I missed having that vocal. And the guitar player was not that I had at the time. He was an amazing guitar player, a really good friend of mine, but he was not really a singer. Yeah. So he wasn't picking up on that. And as I was getting people in and out of the band to solidify who the band was going to be and was always rotating, like, would you come sing in the rock band too? Because your voice is so good with mine and you make me sound so much better. And she's like, yeah,
let's do it.
And at that point I started focusing on writing for the two of us. Like, again, I write a lot of different things. So sometimes like, that's why I do these solo records. It's stuff that doesn't fit with the band, might fit with me and her, might not. So I can go off and do that. But I also can write specifically from her perspective, or a perspective I think is kind of both of ours, you know, and she says things to me that sometimes spark a song, and she's written lyrics to a few songs, more of our duet stuff, but a couple of rock songs with me. But once in a while she'll say something that I think is funny or interesting, and I can kind of run from there, and I know how she thinks. So I can kind of write something that is about both of us, or relates to both of us, or is our perspective collectively, because we're pretty much on the same page with most things. So yeah, so the two of us front it, and then guitar, bass, and drums around us.
And how long has this band been cohesively together now? The whole group.
And that's the thing; it's always cohesive and never cohesive. It's, she came in 2002. A couple years later, I got a drummer, Brian, who's one of my best friends. He's on the record, but at the beginning of 2020, as the world was shutting down, he moved to Nashville.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
He was like, I'm tired of
that did happen a lot during there too. A lot of people I know.
He was planning it before that happened.
Yeah.
Like literally, he's like, I'm going to leave like 6 months before. Finally, in February, they got an offer on their condo in Chicago, and they're like, we're going to Nashville. And I honestly said goodbye to him the weekend the world shut down. Like,
wow. Yeah.
I had to work that night. I work at a music venue in Chicago, and I was bartending at it. He was going out to a show. They had closed down their house on Friday, and on Sunday morning they were driving to Nashville. When I got off work, I met him at a late night bar, him and his wife. And our bass player who works with me met us over there, and we had drinks with them, and they went and crashed in a hotel and drove to Nashville the next day.
Wow.
So he was with me the longest. After Lauren, a couple years later, Chris, my bass player, came along, met him. We worked together. He had just moved to Chicago, got a job where I was working, realized he played bass. Said, what band you in? He's like, I just moved to Chicago. I'm not in any bands. I'm like, you want to be in a band?
Great.
I need a bass player. It was like perfect timing.
Now. Perfect.
Yeah. So he came over one night and jammed with us.
Don't suck.
Brought his roommate, a guitar player who played with us for a couple of years or a year, and then left for a while. And then I let him come back for a while, and then he stopped being in the band. It didn't work out. So Chris has been a long time. And then around the time we were making a record, made a record in, say, 2010. It came out late 2011. And as we were making that, we didn't have a lead guitar player. But the four of us, Chris and Brian and Lauren and I, had a bunch of songs. We were working them up. So I'm like, let's just go in the studio. We'll lay down what we do. We'll have some friends play lead guitar. And that's what we did. I like a buddy of mine out in New York, who's now also in Nashville, went to New York and recorded him on a bunch of songs. And then I asked V, who is now our lead guitar player, like, we come play guitar on a song. Actually, I said, we come play keyboards on a couple songs, because he also plays keyboards. And he and Chris and I were in another band together at the same time. So I knew what he can do. And I'm like, come play keyboards on my record. We'll go down for a day. And I got these 2 or 3 songs I think it would be cool to have keyboards on, and you're really good at that. And he's like, yeah. And then he ended up playing one song on guitar that I hadn't finished with my buddy in New York. And then he started playing shows with us on keyboards. So we had an extra person for a while. We had a keyboard player on top of the 2 guitar, bass, drums, 2 singer thing. And when the other guitar player started flaking and making me not want in the band anymore, we went on without him and did a show or 2 with V mostly on keyboards and the one guitar song he knew. And then one day he walked in and just said, I know everything on guitar. Let's not find a guitar player. Let's just do this.
We're good. I'm
like, okay. Because he's a great guitar player. So that version of the band has been together since 2012. Except we lost the drummer at the beginning of 20. So since then, my buddy Jason, who's old school Chicago rock guy around town, pickup gig, plays every night of the week, started playing with us to help us out when we lost another sub. And he's been with us ever since. And another buddy of mine, Ryan, subs in when he can't. So the drum's a little rotating right now, but I got 2 really great people that are old friends who are both amazing and bring something to it. And then the 4 of us who have been together since 2012.
Nice. How often do you guys play?
try and play every month and then some.
Okay.
Depends. Like,
Sure.
we're playing in April. We have nothing scheduled past that. We're looking at dates to see if we can go out to the East Coast this summer and play a few shows because we haven't done that in a while.
Right.
We used to go to the East Coast every year for like a long weekend.
Yeah.
And go play New York City and a couple things in between.
Mhm.
And we haven't since like maybe 18 because I was like, let's get this record done. Then we'll go to New York with the new record. And then again,
Right.
things got delayed. So we're looking to maybe go out to the East Coast this summer and do a few dates and then play some shows around Chicago and wherever else in the Midwest that we can hook up that when we're free. Because again, as you get older, it gets harder. Like we're not making enough money that this is our job.
Right. Of course.
So it's like, who's free
It's your hobby.
this weekend? If I can get us a gig, we can, if we get them early enough offer, everyone makes the time and readjusts their schedule. But things like going out of town, we really have to go once a week. Everyone knows they're free.
Yeah.
And then I start making the phone calls and the emails and can you get us in? Can you get us in?
And then find a place that'll allow you to go in there and play original music all night long.
Yeah.
Because that's always a challenge in the city of Chicago.
It is. Well, there's enough places in Chicago that we're regulars at that we don't have a huge problem other than the scheduling issue and that they have, hundreds of bands that want to play there.
Right.
Luckily, we have a couple that are strongholds for us. And, we're at this point, we're friends of the club and they help us out. And then other clubs that pick us up here and there. And then the traveling thing, I just, I call people in other cities that I know.
Right.
Or like I said, New York was a stronghold for us. So we would just plan around that. I'd make some calls. Some bands out there would hook us up. And then I'd figure out where in between is a good city and start calling the clubs that I know have original music.
Yeah, right.
And send them music and go, hey, can you hook us up on this date? Because it's a travel date on the way to the East Coast. We're on this tour. They're like, yeah, or no, or, So I have a few places around the country that we can do that. And, Milwaukee, we go up. We haven't been in a couple of years now, but we were going up there semi-regularly and we need to kind of get back to that because Milwaukee's easy. It's we can go there.
You can almost do it in a day.
We do. There have been shows we've played up there where they're like, we get off work, we get in the van, we go to Milwaukee, we play the show, and then we drive home and I drop everyone off. And if it's the weekend, we're lucky we get to sleep the next morning. And if it's not, some of us have to get up and go to work the next day. Usually it's me. I'm the one who works the earliest during the day. Wow. But we have done nights like that where I'm like, the only way we can make this work, because someone has to be at work the next morning, is to just drive straight there, load in, do the thing. When it's over, load out in the van, hit the gas station, and grab a snack and some caffeine and drive the hour and a half home to Chicago, drop everyone off, go to sleep for a few hours and back to the normal world.
So how can people find you? You got a website and everything?
Yeah. Main website is vincerocks.com. And then we're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as TAFKAVince. Facebook's weird because there's I'm on there as Vince myself. There's the artist formerly known as Vince Band. If you do Facebook / the artist formerly known as Vince. Yeah. Or this is the thing. I can't remember. Is it the artist formerly known as Vince or is it band also after the / It's one of those two. And then there's TAFKAVince solo for my solo stuff. So we're on the Facebook, but Instagram is TAFKAVince, which is probably the easiest, and Twitter and the website. And I'm always posting stuff wherever I possibly can to let people know we're there and hoping that they will come see us. And we're on Bandcamp for selling stuff. The artist known as Vince. So that's a good place because it has pretty much everything we've done to the band and most of my solo stuff. I mean, there's a couple of early things that haven't made it there. And I'm like, whatever, people don't really need that. But everything else, singles we've done, oddball stuff. I just put a single out in February that was solo only because last fall, I just couldn't get everyone in a room to learn a new song.
Yeah, right.
We were busy. We played a show last September and we didn't play the rest of the year. We just were all too busy. I think we might have played something in December, a semi-acoustic, no drummer show. I can't remember if that was December or the year before. I just I'm getting old. I'm forgetting things. Yeah. But I wanted to do a song last fall and put out a single in February because it was a song called February's Glare, which maybe I'll sing for you guys next. And I thought it would work with the band, but we just couldn't get in a room to work it out.
Right.
And I really wanted to get it out February 1st because of the title. And it's kind of about Valentine's Day. Oh, and I had another song that was supposed to be on this solo record I'm making called Goodbye February or February Goodbye. So I was like, well, I have 2 songs in February. I should release a digital single. And when I couldn't get the band together, I just recorded it alone. Maybe someday they'll learn it because it could work with the band. It's a rock song. It's a little mellower rock song than we normally do, but it could be. Like I thought it would work. And we all wanted to do it. I just schedules were just too hard to get in the same room and make an arrangement and get it done where I can put it out February 1st.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to play everything and get this out just because I want this concept single of 2 songs about February coming out on February 1st.
Well, I think you should pick one and do it and,
I think so.
And take us home.
Take us home with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, it's Ray the Roadie.
And this is Hollywood Mike of the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. If you've been enjoying our weekly program, we have great news for you. Just tune in to Road to Rock Radio on Mondays at 7 p.m. Central Time, and you can hear a rebroadcast of one of our past episodes. Then again on Thursdays at 7 p.m., you can hear our most current episode brought to you by the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66.
So go to roadtorock.org, scroll down, and click on Radio Station. That'll bring you to the Road to Rock Radio, a station committed entirely to the great music from Illinois, from Chicago blues born on Maxwell Street to today's rock and roll and everything in between. 24/7, all music with its roots in Illinois.
So this one's called February's Glare, and it came out in February, and it's also on the Bandcamp page. It's on Spotify, and because we're on Spotify too, like everyone, and Apple Music and all that.
Right.
And either search the band or artist formerly known as Vince. I think Spotify is both because there's the solo stuff is just artist formerly known as Vince. The other stuff says band. So we're on all that stuff. People can find us. It's just a mouthful and a lot of letters.
Yep.
So, so this one's called February's Glare. Missed it. I'll get you this time.
The sound of love coming from the speakers burrs in your ears. All the hearts and pink carnations indicate the time of the year. 14 days keep shouting out, how will you show you care? Love is just a commodity in February's glare. The taste of love comes from sugar, not from hemlock. You need pretty jewels and pieces of candy in a heart-shaped box. 14 days keep shouting out, how will you show you care? Love is just a commodity in February's glare. Won't you be so kind and be my Valentine? I am wild about you. Make all my dreams come true. The smell of love comes from the flowers you bought at the store. Their sweet smell will be with you forevermore. 14 days keep shouting out, how will you show you care? Love is just a commodity in February's glare. 14 days keep shouting out, how will you show you care? Love is just a commodity in February's glare.
Oh, I didn't see those fans come in.
They're all here to see the artist formerly
Formerly.
known as Vince.
That's right. It's a
Thanks for
mouthful.
coming in tonight, man.
Thanks, Vince.
Thanks
Pleasure
for
meeting
having
you.
me. Glad to be
Sounds
here.
great, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Years of working knows the task. All my instincts are off base. As I'm jumping through the hoops, all the credit will not pay. Have a problematic.
Well, how about that?
The artist, yeah, I guess you have to say it, the artist formerly known as Vince.
That's right.
Yes, you have to say it with your pinky.
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
That was, it seems like lately we've been bringing in more and more original musicians.
I know.
And I like that.
That's so refreshing.
It is.
It is. And, he sounded like, I mentioned it, he sounded like Elvis Costello to me.
Mm-hmm.
You heard David Bowie.
I heard David Bowie. And when you said Costello, yeah, he bits of that too.
Yeah, his vocals more than anything. His vocals and his phrasing and the whole bit. That's what reminded me of Elvis Costello.
Yep.
Very interesting guy too. So
I'd like to hear the whole band together, hear what they sound like.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
yeah, to find that many people that are into that type of a sound, and I bet you it's an interesting show. So.
I bet it is. Well, it was great talking with Vince. Glad he could make it out tonight. And as usual, thank you for listening to the Rock and Roll Chicago podcast. And check us out every Tuesday for another exciting new episode. See you next week.
Rock and roll Chicago.
Hey, it's Ray and Mike, and we got some great information for you.
Yeah, we just wanted to remind you about the fundraiser for the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum on Route 66, which is taking place on October 27th at the Renaissance Center in downtown Joliet.
You'll be able to get tickets at Cadillac Groove shows. If you see Mike or myself somewhere, we'll have tickets. You can get them at the museum. They're only $5.
Also at CadillacGroove.com, you will be able to purchase them online as well.
Very good.
They're going to cost you $5 a ticket. There's going to be a $10 cover charge to get in the day of the event. And for your $10, we will give you 2 more additional tickets as well as some Cadillac Groove swag. And the lucky grand prize winner will win the band Cadillac Groove.
And winner must be present to win. So remember that.
And Cadillac Groove will play for whatever event it is that you would like for us to play for. Conditions do apply.
That's true.
We do
so
have to
get
say
out
that.
there and get your tickets right away.
The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast is edited by Paul Martin. Theme song courtesy of M&R Rush. The Rock and Roll Chicago podcast does not own the rights to any of the music heard on the show. The music is used to promote the guests that are featured.
Chicago, rock and